in the tomb for 4 days. Bethany was less than 2 miles. And many Jews had come to Martha and Mary to comfort them in the loss of their brother. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went out to meet him, but Mary stayed at home. Lord, Martha said to Jesus, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. If you had been here, then something else would have. If you would have been here, then my relationship would have made it. If you had been here, then my business wouldn't have failed. If you had been here, then that thing that I was firmly holding on to wouldn't have passed away. Listen to Martha's skepticism. And listen to Martha's misunderstanding of the power of Jesus Christ and the power of who He is. See, you have to realize that the God that we serve is omnipresent. There's never a moment, never a time, never a minute where the Lord is not in your situation.
Right.
He's there with you whether you're happy.
Right.
He's there with you whether you're sad. He's there with you whether you're up. He's there with you whether you're down. And sometimes we think because the situation gets worse before it gets better that He's not in the midst of it. But the God that we serve is not limited to time.
Right.
He's not limited to space. He's not limited to location.
Right.
He can be in Africa, in India, and in America all at the same time. So the first thing we have to stop thinking is that the Lord is far away when we go through our worst circumstances and awful situations. He's right there in the room. He's right there in the hospital. He's right there in the house at the moment that you need Him. And what Mary failed to understand is that Jesus was God in the flesh, and though His flesh was in a different city, the Spirit of the Lord was there to bring comfort and support and aid. But yet she said, if. And a lot of times we attach these ifs to God. If I had more money, God, then I can get out of it. If I had more time. And the reality is, all we really need in a desperate, despairing situation is to know that the power and the presence of the Lord is already there. And then we have to exercise, here's a big word, we have to exercise what's called patience. And we have to know that sometimes our God works things out according to His timetable. See, we live in a microwave society where we want things right then, right there. We want the promotion 3 months after we get the job. We want the house a month or 2 months after we move into the city. We want to get married 3 months after we started dating. We want it right then, right there. And if it doesn't happen right then and right there, we start to question God. And we start to wonder why. And we start to hem and haw, and our faith begins to wane. When in reality, the Lord works on His scale and on His plan and on His timetable. And sometimes He will draw out your process because there's something that He's trying to do inside of you. There's some knowledge and wisdom and understanding that He's trying to cultivate inside of you. So sometimes He will have us in what's called a holding pattern until He gets you to your destination, because He realizes that if He gets you to your destination ahead of schedule, then you'll have a whole lot of time to be idle and not a whole lot of time to live on purpose. So therefore, He might have you do something that we hate doing. Wait. Just pray. Just believe. And just know that God, He's there. He's working. He's able. But He's going to do it at His pace. He's going to do it at His time. And the wonderful thing about the Lord is that while you're waiting on Him to do what you believe that He's going to do, He'll give you something more valuable than the money that you're asking for. He'll give you something more valuable than the house or the friends or whatever that you're asking for. He'll give you wisdom. He'll give you vision. He'll give you direction until you get to the point where you get the stuff. Ask the Lord for wisdom to endure what you're dealing with until the fruition of time actually elapses and you walk into what the Lord has for you. If, she said. But it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. But you got to be patient. You got to relax, and you got to know that he's still able to do exceedingly abundantly above all you can ask or think. It's not if, but it's when. It's really about your stamina, not his. It's really about your ability to trust and believe, not his.
Right.
You got to understand that the Lord is all-knowing. He's all-seeing. He sees the end from the beginning. And he's already worked out every single one of our affairs from the beginning. And he's just waiting. You're just waiting to walk into what he's already prepared. Patience. Patience, Mary. Patience. It doesn't matter if he's been dead for 5 days, 6 days, 6 years. The Lord is here now. It doesn't matter how desperate the situation gets. The Lord, his presence. It doesn't matter. Just be patient. And just know, Mary, that it seems like a desperate situation, but he's the God of the turnaround.
Yes, he is.
He's the God of the breakthrough. And there's nothing impossible for him. I know you've been weeping, Mary, and I know you've been wailing, Mary, and I know that it's tough for you to deal with what's going on with your brother, but just hold on, Mary. Don't throw in the towel before he's able to do something miraculous on your behalf. Don't walk away and leave Lazarus at the tomb before he does something incredible. Mary, be patient. Jesus says, your brother will rise again in verse 23. Martha answered, I know he will rise again in the resurrection at the last day. Look at what Jesus says to her. I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live even though he dies.
Yes.
And whoever lives and believes in me will never die. Now, the question in the text is being asked to Mary. But I just want you to imagine the Lord standing in front of you, asking you the question that he asked Mary here, after he pretty much tells Mary that the resurrection is still possible and still available. He goes on to look her in the eyes, and he simply asks her, do you believe this?
That's right.
And the same question is extended to you this morning. After he refocuses your mind on his ability to bring that which is dead back to life, after he shares with you his overwhelming power to change and rearrange and fix and move your situation, after he tries to impart faith and understanding of his miraculous ability to take that which is broken and put it back together again, after he helps you to see what he's done in the text for a man named Lazarus, and after he's trying to help you to see that he can do the same thing for you, then he'll step back, look you in your eyes, and ask you, do you believe it?
Wow.
Here in the text, I was able to raise a man that had been dead for 4 days. If that's not too hard for me, then your financial situation, your relational situation, your job situation is not too hard for me. But first, let me just step back, fold my arms, look you in your eyes, and ask you, do you believe this? Now, this is a gut check. I'm not asking, do you shout over this? I'm not asking, is this something that you can, wave your hand around and say, Lord, but is this something that you believe at the gut level? That God is able to take that which is broken, that which other people would throw away, that which other people would walk away from, and put it back together again. At the gut level, at the core of your being, do you believe that it's not over? Do you believe that God has the final say? Or have you walked away from it and mentally checked out? Have you said, you know what, there's no hope? You guys know that I have an older brother and an older sister. And, growing up, I was always the one breaking stuff. Always. I was always the one messing stuff up. And particularly because I had a temper. I had a temper growing up. So I'd be playing with something, and if I got mad, I just, throw it against the wall, and it would collapse and shatter in a million pieces, right? So I would have a number of different toys that would just be broken at any given time. Some of them are my favorite toys. I remember, see, there was a cartoon that I used to love growing up called Thundercats. And some of you guys remember Thundercats. And I had the Lionel Thundercat with the action chop. You know what I mean? He had the little lever on the back when you pulled it, he chopped like that. You know what I mean? It was my favorite toy. Woo! Lionel was dope. You know what I mean? But of course, as I always did, I broke Lionel and he didn't thunder chop anymore. You know what I mean? And I would see him sitting there and get upset because he didn't work right. Well, one day I remember coming home and I remember walking in and my brother was playing with my Lionel. And my Lionel was thunder chopping. You know what I mean? He was working. And I was like so amazed and so excited. And I said, "You fixed my Lionel." And he said, "It's my Lionel now." But the point of the story is, every time I looked at what I had broke, I thought there wasn't any hope for it.
Teach.
I had tried to fix it. I had tried to put glue and tape, and I had tried to do everything I could to get my Lionel to thunder chop. But after doing all I could,
that's right,
and it still didn't work right, I ended up giving up on it. Until one day I came home and I saw my brother playing with something that I had already reckoned is dead, because although my hand couldn't fix it, once he put his hand to it, and once he used his knowledge to fix what I couldn't, he was able to put back together something that I had already reckoned as dead. Let me talk to you in this place. There's somebody in here, you've put it in the closet, you've sealed it, you've thrown it away, and you said it will not work. And the reason why you said it is because you've been trying to use your hands to fix it. You've been trying to use your energy to fix it. You've been trying to use your ability to fix it. But why don't you take what's broken? Why don't you take what's wounded? And why don't you put it in his hands? And why don't you allow him to mend it and put it back together again and do with what's broken what you couldn't?
Thank you, Lord God. Thank you, Lord God.
Do you believe this? Do you believe? Do you believe that he can take it and he can shape it, and he can remodel it, and he can refurbish it, and he can give it back to you better than it was before? Do you believe? Do you believe? Do you believe that thing that you've already canceled can live again? He looked at her and he said, "Do you believe this?
Do you believe it? Do you believe?
Do you believe this?"